promised a single market. And we discussed it earlier today. I am not really sure that we got one. And when I came here like a CEO, and I was confused about all the amazing dangers of the world that I have never seen before and heard about before that we need to regulate. And along came a gentleman with a report called Much More Than a Market, and talked about global scale, how we were falling behind, how we need to simplify our rules, make it easier to do business in Europe, and how Europe is much more than a market, and how we could basically bring one European single market, scaling across borders in a much easier 28th regime. Let me welcome on stage Enrico Letta, former Prime Minister of Italy, and Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. So not only are you a former Prime Minister, you are actually also a dean on one of the most important technical universities in Europe at the moment.
Yes, and I'm very pleased to be here. I think it's a right and great moment, and I'm here first of all to thank you and to thank Digital Europe, because in the elaboration of my report, you were among the first really being part of this collective exercise, because at the end of the day, Much More Than a Market is a collective exercise, and thank you very much for the fact that we work together.
Yeah, thank you so much for actually gathering it and moving the discussion. Now let's talk in a minute about, did we also move the needle? I think I have a very positive mind, right? So I actually think we are seeing concrete things, but I'm looking forward to basically also hear your version of what's next and what happened. So you received the Masters of Digital Award exactly due to this opening up people's eyes to the fact that we're not acting as a single market, and that it is extremely difficult to do business in Europe, and actually proposing concrete solutions with the 28th regime. So we are really calling for a stronger European market on scale, on innovation. We want joint tax credits, we want joint procurement, we want to see joint investments, and still only 11 of the 100 biggest companies are European. So now we are discussing sovereignty. So do you think that what came out, do we have, when we discuss sovereignty, do we have the right goals in mind when we talk about sovereignty in Europe?
The discussion about sovereignty is a complicated one in Europe, because it's a discussion that is a little bit biased by the previous discussion on nationalism and sovereignism, if I may say. That is creating some doubts in the present discussion, some intellectual doubts that are, in my view, a big obstacle. Because sovereignty today, in today's world, means also competitiveness. It's very complicated to, I would say, decouple the two. There's an evident overlapping, and it is fundamental for all of us to understand that in reality our discussion about sovereignty is a discussion about scale. And scale, as we discussed many times together, today is something that for one reason or another we forgot for 25 years. And at the same time, we forgot this term in the period in which the world changed completely scale around us. And we suddenly discovered, with the last big ruptures of the last years, that scale matters, and scale is a fundamental topic for our future. And in reality, I think the main point was related to the fact that we had some happy dependencies in the last 25 years that were a sort of way for us not to consider that this, I would say, scale problem was really an existential issue for us, because we had an happy dependency from the US on security, an happy dependency on Russia on energy, an happy dependency on China on manufacture, an happy dependency on the US on tech, on finance. I can continue on that. Happy dependency. So we were not aware of the damages of all these dependencies. And suddenly, we had the bill of everything. And I have to say, I'm always optimistic, but now I'm a little bit more in the last 4 months, because I saw an objective acceleration in what is happening. The fact that today we have a commitment by the 3 European institutions, because the 3 main institutions took the challenge to launch a plan altogether, the 3. They committed with deadlines. In the One Europe, One Market plan, the 42 measures, you have the most important measures that are absolutely necessaries, and you have, exactly as you said before, Bettina, you have speed, or you have the commitment for speed, because I suggest you to give a look to the queue that are in the plan. In the 42 measures, you have Q3 26, Q4 26, Q2 27. You have very binding deadlines. And I think it is important. It's exactly what we said with Draghi at the Alden-Biesen Castle in the summit. We said, in terms of method, you have to do 2 fundamental things. First, to have an upgrade in terms of political legitimacy of these measures, to have a package. In 85, 92, Delors succeeded with the single market because it was the package, and it was the package with the treaty change. This time it's not possible to have a treaty change, but the need to have an upgrade, and a legislative upgrade of this political architecture of the 42 measures. And the logic of the package is fundamental, because with the package you can have a shared ownership of political parties, countries. If you have measure by measure, it's more complicated. And at the same time, the second point is deadlines. Because if we have deadlines, then it's serious. Without deadlines, it's academic debate.
Yeah. So, I mean, not everyone might know the 42 different measures. If you can mention, just for the audience, some of the most important ones that you really think will change the game.
I can tell you that for me, of course, the most important one is the 28 regime. Is one of them. Has been presented by the Commission, a first proposal. The Commission changed the name. I accepted because I think there will be one day a 28 member state. So the idea of the word 28 is because it's the idea of having a virtual state. But I'm sure, and I strongly hope, that tomorrow Iceland, Montenegro, Albania, Ukraine, I'm a great fan of the enlargement, so I'm sure there will be a 28th member state. But what is very important is the fact that, and this is what I told the leaders in February, and that is always what I try to say in all the meetings I have, when I go out of Europe, presenting what we are doing, discussing about the report and the reports, I can tell you that 80% of the attention from our interlocutors out of Europe is on the 28 regime.
Yeah.
I was in Singapore last week. I can't say the name of my interlocutors, but they told me, and I was a little bit embarrassed, because they asked me, tell me the date in which I can create a company with the 28 regime. And of course,
you should have been bold, you say.
No, I told
Leave
them.
me in 3 months.
I told them end of next year. I think I was lying, but it's a lie for good purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can tell you that Singapore is a place that they were so interested. I was in the US. And in the US, I presented these ideas, 3 big meetings, one in Silicon Valley, one in DC, and the other one in New York City at NASDAQ. And I can tell you that, of course, they named it immediately, oh, this is the European Delaware. Very well, you copy us. I told them it's a little bit different, but I understand the point. But in reality, I repeat, there's a big interest.
Yeah.
Because the main problem we have in Europe is the fact that it's impossible to create a European company. We create a Danish company, an Italian company, a French company, a Portuguese company. This is the key issue. I'm sorry, because I'm not saying anything very intelligent and very creative. It's very simple. But in reality, it is the true fundamental point. If we are able to give the possibility to the people to create a European company, that will immediately overcome half of the obstacles that all the national companies have. That is the problem that they get from the neighboring country, not from China or from the US.
And I actually think that the Ukrainians did a little bit that with their DIA, and where you can basically register a company in Ukraine, and you don't even have to be resident there right now, attracting a lot of foreign investment. Really, really interesting. It could be interesting to see how much they've taken from the 28th regime while doing that.
I can tell you that discussing with them, I found them very much reactive, interested, proactive on this. I think they are transforming their candidature as members of the European Union as a candidature where we have to ask them to be in as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think you're totally... Should we give him a hand? Yes. Well, I don't know, I think I really, the way that we think alike, and this is also why after a few years in Brussels, when you came along, I was like, wow, this man gets it, you know? It's exactly what we need. Can we have more of that kind of thinking? And the 28th regime, right? It's 48 hours in cooperation, digital corporations, flexible ownership structures, clear tax and insolvency procedures, easier cross-border hiring, etc. We also say like employee shares and shares, how you actually handle your shares. Where do you expect, what are the tools and what are the things that you think will make the biggest difference for the companies if we actually implement it? And how can we help you to move it forward?
The main point for me is to raise the sense of urgency, pressure, and the risk of frustration. This is the point. I always use the term frustration because it is clear that today, around the 28th regime, there's a big level of expectation. But I have to say also there's also the big risk of frustration, of big frustration, because if at the end of this journey the outcome is I think the frustration will be enormous, because it will be the sense to say, as an American AI that was answering to the question, can Europe scale, in a debate we had. And the answer was no, because there are two very good reports, but the leaders will never be able to overcome their differences and to implement the two reports. And the big problem is to avoid this sense of potential frustration that was there last year. Last year we started thinking that, okay, we have two reports, but nothing is happening. So this is why today I see things are happening, but what we try to do have to become reality. So the fundamental sense is this sense of frustration. And the second point, if I may say, is linking the 28th regime to the other big transformations of all this one Europe, one market, because it's not just alone in a silos. For instance, all the discussion that you are having here is absolutely crucial, and you have to link it. But I would like to say that the big link is with the Savings and Investments Union.
Yeah.
Because in reality, I heard before, I think you talked about the role of Savings and Investments Union. It is absolutely fundamental, because it is the way, I would say, to take for granted that last 10 years we failed on the Capital Markets Union. We failed, I have to say, not because of us. Large part of the responsibility of the failure of the Capital Markets Union is Brexit, because the idea was to have a Capital Markets Union with London as financial capital, having London with Frankfurt, Brussels, Strasbourg, and Luxembourg as the capitals of Europe. It didn't work because of Brexit. So today we have to change also the narrative of the Capital Markets. It's no more the old Capital Markets Union. It's another idea, and the other idea is starting And I think is why the momentum, because it is starting in the moment in which we are debating the MFF. And we know all that the MFF, there's too few money, it's too little money in the MFF for all the expectations we have around. So the only way to solve the conundrum is to clearly say that we have to do, sorry to say, like the Americans. The big success on AI is not public money driven, it's private money driven in the US. And it is clear that it is exactly what we are not able to do because our, we say, capacity to have investments private money driven is, how we say, is not at the level of our strength, of the level of our savings. And in my view, it is the most crucial, most important point. I always repeat one point, and I try to use it, even if it's very simple. But I think simple things are more important than... our main problem is the fact that we are 17% of real economy in the world, 17% with Europeans. The US is 25% real economy. But our 17% becomes 12 when it comes to finance, market caps. 17 becomes 12. And the 25 of the US becomes 60, 6-0. And 17 and 25 is the same championship. 12-60 is not the same championship. Is a totally different championship. And the magnitude of investment that you can put in the investment that are fundamental for a leadership in the tech and the tech market in innovation can come from these. We are the main savers in the world, but we are not able to use it.
We're not attracting our own capital.
So I think we have to combine everything here. And what is very important is to try to combine also in terms of narrative. And I think to have a roadshow in the world, clearly saying that this is what we are doing now. In the next 18 months, this is our projects, these are the deadlines, and this is what we want to do. And the world of today, I think, is interested in what Europe is doing. Is a sort of also of reaction to the famous Mark Carney's speech in Davos, is the way to say, okay, yes, we are trying to give an answer.
So we see this all the time. We have the Dual Use Award and the Digital European Unicorn Award, alumni of 250 amazing scale-ups around Europe. And we don't see from industry there's any kind of innovation crisis. There's a scalability crisis, as we discussed many times. So will you and I sit here in 2 years and we will be able to see 17 not be 12, but 17 become 35? And what are the two things that you want us to support to get there?
I will try to say something that it's a little bit for laugh, but it is serious. I was telling you about this answer of the American AI to the question, can Europe scale? I was in a debate in DC on that. And we were 3 panelists. I was chairing this debate. Can Europe scale? Question mark. And the first panelist said, I don't know what to say, so I read the answer of the AI, the American AI. And in the room there was a European leader raising the hand, and gave him the floor, and he said, can I read the answer of another AI? And he read the answer of another AI, and the answer was, can Europe scale? Question mark. The answer was, yes, Europe can, because of ta 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 ta. And of course it was any European AI. But all the
Did it also give the
Europeans,
answers on the how?
all the Europeans in the room were connected to American AI, not the European AI. So they were all influenced by the American AI answer. And this is a key issue. And I can add to this story the fact that 3 weeks ago in Fudan University, so in Shanghai, discussing these topics, and a Fudan scholar raising his hand told me, can I read the answer of the Chinese AI? And the answer of the Chinese AI was totally in line with the European one. But we use the American AI.
You need a big
So
law.
I would like to say that in 2 years' time, I would like to have a development of what we are doing, able to try to, how we say, equilibrate. And this is the first one. The second one is it seems a little bit ridiculous, but in my view, it is fundamental. The Savings and Investments Union will work only if it becomes a global political project of the entire European Union. If it is only for experts of finance, if it is only for the Eurogroup experts, for the central bankers and so on, it will fail. I can write here the bet on that. It has to become something more global because it's the only way to clearly have this big challenge in using in the best way our savings, giving our savers the idea that it's good for them because the return will be better for them and it will be good for real economy. But we need to launch a great campaign on Savings and Investments Union. And so in 2 years' time, I hope this Savings and Investments Union can be a great campaign. I hope the acronym, we in Brussels, we love acronyms, as you know. So SIU has to become the new big acronym at the European level. We are not there until now. If you ask AI, what does it mean, SIU, you have a complicated answer because 99% of the responses on CU are referring not to the commissioner on finance, she is Portuguese, Albuquerque, but to another Portuguese. Is Cristiano Ronaldo, because CU is the way in which Cristiano Ronaldo celebrates his goals. So we have to, in 2 years' time, we need to have half of the answers on Savings and Investments Union and the rest on Ronaldo. We can hire Ronaldo to be testimonial. I think it would be a little bit expensive. I don't know if the Commission has the money to do so, but...
Listen, time is up. But this has been a very valuable conversation. For companies, you know, these kind of stuff, it's real, right? You know, every day we want to scale, we're looking, where can we scale? Where can we afford to scale? And I hope that we're sitting here. We did the Unicorn Award. We can see that EIB, EIC, and EIF are sponsoring 25% of the unicorns straight after. We have the Scale-Up Fund. We have the idea of common procurement in several areas. We have the Euro HPC. So who knows? Maybe we are on the path on the 28th regime, and we certainly will do our part to get there. Thank you so much for your time and for your passion.
Thank you.